Welcome back to the Lead Lamp Podcast. This week, we have Ray and Babs from Twisted Mad Hatter Tattoos in Camp Hill. So this is a little bit different of a business, but it is a local business. And I have tattoos. A couple of people on our team have tattoos. So I'm interested to hear kind of the business side of tattooing and the journey where you kind of start out as a tattoo artist and evolve your way into owning a shop or working in a shop and apprenticing. So it's interesting to me, and I know it's probably interesting to Cody and Joe has tattoo too. Just to learn, like, how do you get started? What's it mean to be a tattoo artist in the area? And I think tattooing's definitely become more acceptable in today's industry. Even in business, you see people, I go to business meetings, there's people with tattoos, and it's not even a big deal anymore. 15, 20 years ago when I was first working, it was like, oh, you got to cover them up and everything. So I want to kind of talk about that evolution of tattooing as well. So thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
Yeah. Quickly just kind of run through your shop. I know you moved and you kind of were going through a little bit of some changes. I know just from talking to Kristen a little bit, but talk about Twisted Mad Hatter and then how you got the name. That's an interesting name, just really the business in general.
Well, we're currently in Camp Hill. We had locations in Dillsburg and East Berlin, and we're actually looking for another location which suits the business better.
Okay. You're going to move from Camp Hill or?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we might stay in Camp Hill. Depends on
how it works out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about, how did you get the name Twisted Mad Hatter? Because that's a cool name and it's a cool logo.
When it started with a drunken Halloween party.
Oh boy! All right.
Me and my wife Kristen were having a Halloween party, and we dressed up as the Mad Hatter and Alice.
Okay.
And a little bit of intoxication, and I put on the Joker's mask from when he cut his face off in the comic books, and I started running around. I'm the Twisted Mad Hatter.
And then it stuck.
No. Actually, when I first started the idea of opening a shop, trying to think of names and, talking to the wife, and we just couldn't come up with any good names. Then the Facebook memories came up with, and I called her. I'm like, what about the Twisted Mad Hatter? She's like, that's nice.
That is.
So that's Drunken Halloween Party. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Has nothing. A lot of people think it has a lot to do with Alice in Wonderland and everything.
Really nothing.
Not really, no. I mean, I like it, but...
Yeah. Hey, that's cool, though. I mean, it's tied to a memory, and we were talking about that earlier, like, whether it's a tattoo or it's anything you're doing, if you can tie it to something that brings back a good memory, it's always a good thing, so...
It was a good party.
Yeah. So we're going to walk into... You have your business. We're going to come into more of the business side of it a little bit later, but let's talk about how each of you got into tattooing. We'll start with Babs. So, I don't know how you get into it. I'm sure everyone has a different journey as well.
Yeah.
Which will be cool to hear two different stories on it. But, how does it start? How do you go from not doing tattoos on people to doing tattoos on people?
Yeah. So, for me, it was probably not the most conventional route a lot of people get into it. I went to school for art. I have an associate's degree from Tom Savini's School for Special Effects and Makeup. So I, work on film sets. Mm-hmm. I do special effects makeup, make a lot of zombies. So
that's pretty cool.
Her movie's coming out soon.
We're gonna plug
the
right one. We're not plugging the movie just yet. Right. But
I tried.
We'll plug it afterwards. But I usually will just do art, and I was always sculpting, drawing, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I grew up in a very artistic household. I went to comic conventions growing up from the time I was 6 until, today.
And you were always drawing?
Always drawing, always hanging around artists, and a lot of them had huge influences on me. So my one friend who actually passed away, Tommy Castillo, he taught me a lot about drawing and stuff like that, and really gave me a passion for art. Mm-hmm. So whenever I chose to pursue that, I was getting tattoos as I went. Every so often I would see something that, really stuck out with me, and I would go and get the tattoo. And I was always fascinated by that process. So one day my one friend was like, hey, there's this, shop over here that's hosting an April Fool's Day thing where you pick your friend's tattoos and you don't see it until it's done. And I was like, that sounds amazing. I'm so down. So we went, and I was looking at the profile and everything beforehand just to kind of see the art and everything. And I saw that they were looking for an apprentice. So I went in, got the tattoo, talked with everyone. I liked the vibes. I liked how everyone was composing themselves. The artwork that was coming out of the shop was fantastic. So I shot my shot and I asked.
Now you're here. Yeah.
Brought me in on, that was on Saturday.
Yep.
On Tuesday, I came in for the interview, started working that day.
Was that this past April or?
Yeah, that was in 2022.
Okay.
Or 2023, sorry.
All right. So now you're tattooing as an apprentice.
Yes.
How long did it take to be able to tattoo on your first person?
So
when did he throw you into that?
For me, it was pretty much whenever I got the line depth down.
Okay.
Whenever I was able to pull consistent lines, I was not personally ready, but skill set wise.
But then if he didn't make you do it,
that's just
how long would you have been personally ready then?
Exactly. So it was kind of like I was doing some practice one day on fake skin, and guy came in and was like, "New apprentice?" And Ray got the devious smirk on his face and was like, "Hey, Babs." So
well, I had this client. He's awesome. He comes in every once in a while, and if he ever sees anybody new, he's just like, "Are they tattooing?" I'm like, "Not yet, but they are today." And he's like, "Right on."
And he doesn't mind.
Nope. He loves it.
That's awesome.
He gives them different, vibes from different artists. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
He's got a little string of just apprentice tattoos around his arm.
That's cool. He's got the war scars or whatever of each new apprentice that you have. That's awesome though. Yeah. And you have to do it eventually. So
exactly.
You just got to go into the fire eventually and just have it.
Yep.
Just start doing it. Now, the first time you do it, is your stomach just wrenched? Yeah.
In my throat the whole time. Everything feels like I'm going to mess it up. I don't want to hurt somebody, but the more
Probably
you do it.
Probably have to get over worrying about hurting them pretty quick.
Yeah. It's going to hurt.
In a way. Yeah.
It's going to hurt at least a little bit. Everyone's pain tolerance is different, but it was more of what if I go too deep? What if I hurt them? What if I do it wrong? There's always those nerves, but the second you get into the headspace,
once you start,
it's really so much easier once you're actually just starting it. You always get the pre-tattoo nerves, but the second you start, it just kind of all fades away, and you're
that's
just focused on the art.
Yeah. I mean, I still get that every time I start.
Oh yeah.
It's probably also excitement because you're it's excitement, but nerves. It's because you're doing what you love, so you're getting excited and you get a little nervous. And that's like anything. We were talking about running before we started. Anytime I do a race, there's always that right before there's that build up, and there's some nerves. You're a little nervous. You're excited, but then once you start, you're you settle in and you're just doing what you know. Yeah.
Yep. All the focus goes on to that. So
sweet. So now you're an apprentice tattoo artist.
Yep.
Thanks to Ray, he took a leap on you. Now, and I'm sure your artwork too is another thing too. You're, as an apprentice, you probably spend an enormous amount of time just drawing over and over and over again, right?
I probably draw more now that I'm tattooing regularly than I did whenever I had first started.
Oh, wow.
So, because at that point, I was trying to focus more on technique, making sure that, needle depth is correct, making sure that, the colors are saturated correctly. Am I using the correct needle? Am I, moving slow enough? What's the voltage? All of those other things that I was trying to focus on to make sure that I had those down before I started going into okay, now we can get fancy with it.
Now you're worried. Now you're focusing on the art.
Yeah, now I'm focusing more on the art because I feel that I have the technique, and correct me if I am wrong.
No, you have a Good technique.
So I feel confident with the technique now, and now I can kind of get a little bit fancier with it. I can start doing, more of my own stuff that, I'm more passionate about, and like drawing up original designs that I just want to do.
Yeah.
So
Sounds like more fun now.
Yeah.
So let's go
having a
into
great
Ray's side. How did you start tattooing? And then like, how does it evolve into, I'm going to do this professionally and I'm actually going to open a shop now? 'Cause there's big leaps there.
There's a lot of leaps. Honestly, it started back in high school. Me and my best friend, we always talked about opening a tattoo shop. We tattooed our girlfriends and our friends and everything like that. And it just kind of faded away.
Other things get in the way. And,
Life,
Yeah.
Schooling. But he went into a different field. Now he's working in a quarry, and I did a lot of things. Still tattooed, myself and friends, but nothing major, nothing.
right. You weren't professionally doing it.
I was a scratcher. And then time passed, and in 2016, I had a stroke. So I have memory issues now and some cognitive speaking problems if I have to think too much.
We can always, like I said, we'll slice them up.
So after a while, after just healing and rehabs and everything, I couldn't work anymore. So I'm sitting at home playing a lot of video games, and unfortunately, all of my friends are at work, so it's kind of boring. And I had 2 stepdaughters and a wife now, and I was like, I can't just sit around all day. I gotta do something, and had to be a good example for the kids. And one day my friend calls me up and says, "Hey, I'm in this tattoo shop. We need an artist." And I was like, I probably shouldn't be doing that. And she's like, well, the owner's fine with your situation. All right, I'll be there tomorrow. And, started tattooing out of the shop in Dillsburg. And after a few months, the owner decided to sell, and he was going to close down. And he's like, you know what? I will give you a recommendation to any tattoo shop you want to get in there. He's like, I know plenty of people. And I was like, I'm not cool with that. I'm not,
Yeah. It didn't sit right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And time's going by, and, started moving stuff out of the shop. And, we sat down and talked, and he's like, why don't you just buy my shop? I was like, yeah, okay. Me and what money, And he's like, I'll make it work for you. And we sat down and we laid down some groundwork, and I went home and talked to my wife, and she's like, whatever you want to do, babe.
No, it makes it easier. Yeah.
Whatever you want to do.
No pressure.
Like, yeah. And I was like, I can do this. I really think I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And we sat down, we worked out an agreement, and moved to my first location in Dillsburg, and 7 years later, still here.
There you go. Now, do you think it's rewarding being able to continue doing it now your way? Like you can kind of call the shots too with what you have. So as a business owner, whatever it is, whether you're
everybody thinks that.
Yeah.
You can't take off when you want. I
mean, it's a blessing and a curse.
Yes.
Owning and running a business. Obviously, your time is now more invested. But as far as you doing it the way you want to now, is running your shop, do you find that is something you didn't expect, that there's some cool sides with it too?
Honestly, it's more stressful being your own boss than it is working for somebody.
Yeah, you can't just clock out and
can't clock out. There's more to it than I originally foreseen. But I wouldn't change it because I'm happy with where I'm at. Since the first year, we've been nominated for Simply the Best. Won twice. Maybe 3 times this year. We'll see.
We're going to go for the 3rd. There's still time to vote.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you can please vote, Specialty Service Harrisburg. No.
There you go. Well, that's a good plug. But no, I mean, it is. You're right. When you open a business or you run a business, there's people think there's the freedoms of being a business owner, but then where there are freedoms, you also lose a lot of other freedoms in your day-to-day just because you're responsible for Babs and anyone else that comes into your shop.
I'm very lucky to have a supportive, understanding wife.
Yes.
Very lucky.
I get it. Now let's talk about a little bit more fun side of this. The art of tattooing, there's probably a big reward for you guys being able to give people something that they wanted. Obviously, it's a little bit different of a business service. Probably we were talking 20 years ago, wasn't as mainstream or accepted to just be walking around with a bunch of tattoos, and it seems like it is now. But when you're putting that on somebody and you can see that they love what they have, hopefully, there's got to be some kind of feeling in there. You're like, that was pretty cool. Like I made something special for somebody, whether it's a small thing that's very personal to them or you're helping them complete, a full project. I'm sure there is that moment where you're like, that's awesome. Like that makes it worth it.
Yeah. I mean, for me, at least, it's definitely very, gratifying, trying to help someone, feel more at home with themselves. Mm-hmm. Like, at least that's how it was for me. Like whenever I get a tattoo, if, I love it, I think it's exactly where I wanted it. It's exactly what I wanted it to look like. I'm excited about that. Mm-hmm. And being able to do that for other people it's definitely rewarding. Mm-hmm. Every so often, there's always the tattoos that you do that you're not entirely happy with yourself. But as long as the person, we're always going to be our own worst critics.
Right. That's what.
So, yeah. So I could draw a stick figure on someone and I could still be like, oh man, that circle's a little jacked. Yeah. But as long as the person is happy and excited and, it's what they wanted and, they're just really just happy to have it. For me, that, my opinion doesn't matter anymore. It's theirs now. And
it probably there's probably a challenge with that when you're doing them where you have to remove yourself from the art a little bit. You still have to do the best job possible, but if that's really what they wanted and it's maybe not something you would have done.
We get quite a bit of that where, we're actually one of the few shops that try to talk people out of tattoos on certain areas, names, just.
Yeah, there's a few unwritten rules.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be.
Yeah, I'm more about the art than the money.
Yeah.
I'd rather, make sure it's something that's going to last and be there and they're going to appreciate.
Right.
And not, 3 years down the road going, why did I
do that? Yeah.
And then come back for a cover up or something.
Yeah.
There's always that chance and, everyone changes,
Yeah.
Humans grow, we learn. That's the whole thing. So for me, it's nice that in that moment I can make them happy at least.
Right.
Whether or not they might regret it later, I know that I did my part,
You can't control that though.
Nope.
Yeah.
It's I understand you want your boyfriend's name right above your eyebrow, but maybe not the best life choice, honey.
Well, speaking of names, I had this one girl, 5 cover-ups later, she's happy with what she's got. She first came in for her husband's name. I tried to talk her out of it because that's what I normally do, but she wanted it, solid relationship, 20 years or so, and, she ended up getting the name. And then 6 weeks later, they contacted me and asked me to cover it up because they found out their husband was cheating.
Oh, yeah.
I was like,
maybe... Yeah, that was the jinx.
Yeah.
Want to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I warn people all the time, it's the kiss of death, but, we did it. And I was like, you know, what do you want me to do? You know? And she's like, I just like it covered up. I'm like, all right, you know, we can work something out. And, you know, I'm waiting for them to contact me to book an appointment. And they come in and they're like, okay, so I got this tattoo covered up at this place. I need it covered up. I was like, okay, so you got somewhere else to cover up the name that I did. Now I got to cover up their mistake. And then she ended up getting that covered up. It was decent. It was decent. I mean, it got rid of.
Right.
I don't know if it was a butterfly or a rose.
It was a shape.
Yeah, and then she comes back and she's now dating another guy, and she's like, "I want to." I'm like, "Remember what I told you the first time?"
We don't know.
And she, you know, she did it. So you know, like I said, 5 cover-ups later, she got a sweet owl on the arm.
All right. Well, you get there. The end result is always
exactly. She loves it, and you know, it looks good. I'm happy with it for the 5th cover-up.
And how do you go about creating art for a cover-up where, whether it's a name or it's something that looked bad, how do you design it to fit, to cover it up like appropriately?
What I do is, I mean, I do a lot of work on my iPad. I'll take a picture of the item they want covered up, and I actually draw on top of the picture, so I know it's going to fit the way I want it to.
Cover up these areas.
Yeah,
right.
Like I'll put a tape measure beside the tattoo they want covered up, and that way, while I'm drawing, I know it's going to fit the way I want it to because I did the measurements, and I'm just not eyeballing it.
Right.
You know, like I always tell Babs, you know, tattooing's not just art; it's a science. You know, you got to know both. You can't just think you can go off of one and be good.
Right. It's almost like the carpenter's rule too. Like, measure it twice. Definitely measure it twice.
Yeah.
Because you can't recut again. Like,
no.
You have to do another cover up. So you don't. So, okay. So yeah, you really need to incorporate the art that you design again to hit those certain areas.
Yeah. And you got to figure out where to put your, you know, your shading, you know, the light, so it detracts the eye from the actual cover up.
Right.
Light source, color theory, making sure that, you know, if you're trying to neutralize specific colors, that it's able to neutralize it down enough.
Yeah.
Like there's so much that goes into designing and creating a good cover up. Like that's why I personally don't do them yet.
I do a great bowling ball.
Bowling ball is probably great for cover up. Just one big old, one solid color.
So like for me at least, like that's something that I've been trying to work a lot more on, like in my journey. So that way, whenever I get to that point, you know, I can do it.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot that goes into covering up something. Like,
right.
I mean, unless you're just doing a black silhouette of trees over, you know, the rosary you got when you were 18. Like,
so that's a funny thing too. I feel like you see it quite a bit. There's a lot of trends that come and go as fast as they come in and go out.
Yeah.
Pinterest is the devil.
For tattoos. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's like, this is funny to me. So like, what's like a current trend like you see a lot of now that you're like, oh man, here it comes. I'm going to have a bunch of people asking for this.
What's yours? Because I know what mine is.
I mean, I've been getting a lot.
It used to be like the infinity symbol.
Yeah, that's still a thing. I mean, I've been getting a lot of, what is that? Let it be. No, wait. What?
Let them.
Let them.
Yeah.
Let them's a trend. I really don't know.
What's that mean?
I
just let them.
Yeah.
Oh.
Like,
and then.
Okay.
Like if they're going to talk, let them. If they're going to do whatever, let them.
Oh, I thought you meant like it was the tattoo was like.
No,
it's just the text that says let them.
Just breathe.
That's another
huge.
one.
Okay.
That's huge.
I hate.
It's almost like if you walk through Hobby Lobby and you find a sign.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, that's going to be a tattoo.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, people are going through Pinterest and they're like, oh, I want that.
That's me.
Yep. And it's like, no, it's not you. It's like, 15 other 1,000 people that have that because you found it on Pinterest just like they did.
Huh. Now, like you said, though, as fast as you see them coming in, next year it'll be another thing. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And we're still covering up tribals from the 90s.
Yeah. Sometimes they still look good, though. Like there are.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. You see some tribal ones they look awesome.
Yeah.
But You see just as many that don't. Now, what's that?
Facts.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Oh, I wanted to get into style. So you, not just with talking about tattooing, but you talked about the science of mixing your colors right and, depth and power on the machine and everything like that. Now, styles, I'm sure you both have different styles that you fall into. What would you guys say your styles are? We can start with Babs. Like, what do you think your favorite, what are you drawn more to? Not even just for yourself for a tattoo, but when you're drawing one and doing a tattoo.
Whenever I'm doing tattoos, I personally prefer to do more like neo-traditional style. I like.
It was an example of that. Like,
yeah. So like, I was gonna say, I think like this tattoo that I have on my arm would be more like neo-traditional style. Like
bold lines, bold colors, but not like an eagle or
okay.
Yeah, like not like the classic Sailor Jerry stuff that you see or like the military based stuff, like more of, movies and media, stuff like that.
Right. It's similar colors to those, but it's like a more modern or just a more creative.
Yeah, it's a little bit more
style.
updated, a little bit more stylized than like that traditional, hula girl that you see on every trucker from the 70s. So that would probably be a style that I prefer to tattoo in.
Okay.
I like soft shading. I like doing, really deep, bold blacks. I'm starting to learn realism.
she's kicking. Yeah, she's doing really good.
I'm really
She's
trying.
understanding.
She's gonna be killer.
All right.
She's gonna be killer.
I'm still learning it, but I'm making a lot of progress and I'm really happy with that, and I like that style.
Okay.
So the actual like way that you tattoo it clicks in my brain right, and I can just
And when you say realism, you mean like almost like photorealistic?
yeah.
Okay.
So I'm starting to do some studies on that and work on that a little bit more. But for the moment, neo-traditional.
Okay. And what would you say you fall into more of? Or if you had to pick, like I love doing this.
Yeah, I like doing creepy black work, but I fall in the line of more of fine line and lettering, which I don't like doing lettering, but I'm really good at it.
You're like, oh, not another one, but I'm good. Like,
but I like the more of the black and gray and more black work, fine line, detail, detail in a little area,
Is it hard, or shouldn't word it that way? How do you make detail work stick? So like I've always heard, like if you go finer or you go smaller, it has a tendency to fade out.
That's where the science comes in. Most tattoos, if they fade or like fine line work, half of it is in the tattooing and the other half is in the healing.
Care.
If they don't take care of it after it's done, it's not going to last. But when it comes to fine line and detail, you really have to be careful. You can't use too thick of a needle. I mean, you're using probably a single to a 3-liner, like finer than a pencil tip. And you just got to be really careful.
Take your time.
Yeah, because you can go the moment you go too deep, it's done. So.
I was curious about that. Like
if I was smarter, I could be a surgeon.
Probably could if you had.
Hey, I can go over a single needle line 3 times without making a double line. If I had the smarts for it, I'd be like,
Well, now everything's laser with surgery.
Yeah.
It's right up your alley. We'll get you over with Dr. Alfano. Yeah. So I mean, that's cool. To me, it's neat, the science behind tattooing. It's not just like, it's not as primitive even as it used to be when you think about how they used to do it. Like, a couple hundred years ago or longer. It's very precise now, and it's interesting because it's an art that, and we'll talk about this a little bit. It's an art that, even like I said earlier, 20 years ago, people didn't really openly talk about it or do it. Or if you saw it, you're like, oh, that guy's.
Well, it's constantly evolving and
right. And it's becoming more, I think, acceptable for people to express themselves with tattoos.
I see some doctors with more tattoos than I do.
Yeah. Yeah, we know some. They, their whole arm's covered.
Yeah.
And it's not even like when you see them now, you're like, oh, guy's rough. Like, you gotta stay away. I don't think people think that way anymore about it, which is kind of cool. It's opened it up to really everyone.
Well, that's kind of funny because like I'm old school. Like, you know, I didn't want any tattoos that I couldn't cover up. You know, I always joked around with my wife about, you know, there's 3 reasons why I won't get a tattoo that I can't cover up. I mean, you know, I don't even have any tattoos on my hands. And, you know, the first one being, okay, well, you know, if I'm going for a job, I don't want them to judge me for having tattoos.
Right.
And then the third one was, well, you know, if I go to court, I don't want the judge judging me. And then the third one was, you know, if I go into the school for the kids, I don't want them judging my kids because I have tattoos.
Yeah.
So, you know, and it's funny because then I ended up getting this one on my neck purely because my wife suggested it. I would have never done it.
Yeah.
You know, and she's like, "Nah, it's a great place. You should totally do it." I was like, "But babe, what about?" She goes, "Okay, look, here's the deal. Okay, when's the last time you were in court?" I was like, it's been a while." She goes, "Okay, exactly." She goes, "Your kid hands out your business cards, draws on other kids with Sharpies. Everybody comes to you for tattoos. They already know. They're not going to judge her for it.
And they know you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she goes, "And if you're looking for a job anytime soon, we got problems." So I ended up getting the tattoo on my neck, and I go home. She goes, "What did you do?" I was like, "Well, that's what you told me to do." She's like, "I was just joking." I was like, "Oh, all right." But it looks bad. It looks cool.
Yeah.
So we're good.
It's worked out. And then you're in the environment where, like,
Yeah,
that's the place to do it.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah.
it's okay. Now I want some tattoos on my hands, but I work on my motorcycles too much, and I don't want to scar.
You don't want to bust them up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I do think it is, you see, and you guys probably see it too, there's a lot more people now that get them who you would never think that that person has a tattoo. Like, it's every walk of life now, you name it, people are more interested in them, I think, now than they were,
Yeah.
you know, a couple decades ago.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, I see it a lot with a lot of people who are like in like their 50s and 60s, a lot more recently. Like, I used to work at a warehouse over in Carlisle, and before I started tattooing, I had so many of my coworkers who were in their 50s, 60s, even some of them in their 70s, who were like, "Oh yeah, no, I just got this new tattoo." And like, I'm like, "Karen, what are you doing?" Like, I love it. It's beautiful.
Did your grandkids see it? Yeah.
Like, have your grandkids seen this?
But it's not, you know, it's not to shame them. It's neat that,
oh yeah,
especially for you guys as running it as a business now, it's neat that more people are getting this.
I mean, at one time I had 3 generations come to me. It was her grandmother's 80th birthday, and grandmother's like, "Let's go get tattoos."
Nice.
Never had tattoos before, but she's like, "My daughter has them. My granddaughter has them.
So they all
Let's
three
do
went
this."
together?
All 3 came in together, hooked up grandma, you know, 80, rocked it, had no issues.
She was
I
like,
mean, she took it
got
better.
right through
She
it.
took it better than the granddaughter. And they got matching tattoos, and it was awesome. I mean, she came back 3 days later with her husband to get another.
That's awesome.
So,
Huh.
it just really shows how much the cultural mindset has changed around them.
Yeah.
I mean, at least in America, like for us, like, because I know that there's still some judgment and everything in places like, you know, South Korea, Japan, but for us here, it's been really interesting seeing how much it's changed. Because, like, I know whenever
And very quickly.
yeah, I know whenever I was growing up, my parents were like, you know, yeah, no tattoos under your elbow, no tattoos above your neck, like none of this. I started tattooing. My dad came in and got one on his wrist.
Yeah.
And he's got one on his leg now. So
That's fun, probably tattooing your parents. That's a good one.
I only got to do my mom yet, so whenever she sees this, book it.
It's your turn. Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's just it's a neat industry. It's fun. I'm glad you guys shared your stories. We'll wrap up on, like, what's it mean for you to be a tattoo artist? Like, it's an extension of your ability to create art and joy for other people? Or is it, like, what's that, when you think of not just owning a business, so set that aside, just doing tattoos, like, what's that mean for both of you?
I mean, personally, You know, I've always been an artist, you know, different mediums, but, you know, an artist altogether. And I just love walking down the street and someone going, you're the tattoo guy, aren't you? And I'm going, what? And they remember my work. Mm-hmm. The fact that someone's carrying around a piece of art that I've done, especially when it's a custom piece, you know, and someone knows you from that, and they're just like, dude, you're awesome. That's a great feeling.
Yeah.
I mean, like the other day we were at a convention and I'm doing this tattoo and I'm like, hey, you know, it's not my favorite. But then another artist comes up and goes, man, that's clean. That makes me feel good because, you know, you get appreciated and, you know, it's not for what I'm doing, but it's for the art.
Right.
And it's just an awesome feeling when somebody actually wants to carry your artwork around for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think for me, it's just having an outlet for my creativity, like, and having having something that I'm doing that I'm very passionate about, that I'm very involved in, that I want to continue getting better and I want to continue learning, and having something in my life that gives me that, you know, I feel like it's just really fulfilling for me.
Right.
Like being
you found
able,
a thing that ignites something in you. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and I love going into work every day. I love, you know, meeting people. I love talking to people. I love traveling for conventions. It's in the last year that I have been working, it is the happiest I have been at any job I have ever had. And, you know, whenever you wake up and you don't feel like, oh, I just got to go through another day. Like, I'm just like, okay, what am I doing today? What art am I going to create? Who's coming in? Oh, it's this person. I haven't seen this person in a hot minute. They're fantastic.
You get to catch up with them.
Yeah. Like it feels like I get to see my friends every single day and just create together.
And you're building it, whether you realize it or not. I'm sure you've been in it longer, so you see it. But you're building a community around you. Yeah. Like you catch up with people. You might only see them once a year, but then you can kick it off and talk with them right away.
I always joke around with her. I'm like, you know, when you first start tattooing, your friends want to be your clients. You know, they all want to, hey, I'm there for you. You know, tattoo me up. Go for it. But what actually happens is your clients become your friends. And you meet a lot of awesome people. And, you know, I know there's shops that don't really connect with their clients as much or take the time, but you know, we joke around and we're like, we're not a tattoo shop, we're a tattoo experience. You know, we actually, I mean, I know one of my best Xbox buddies is one of my clients. So, you know, now
it became more than just a client. Yeah.
I mean, we rock on Xbox all the time now, and we talk almost every other day, at least once a week on the Xbox.
Yeah.
But
it's cool though. It's definitely becomes a community. I can see it even just from the few that I've had. When you come in, they remember you. They're like, "Hey, how your kids doing? Anything new?" Like you learn, and you learn about them too. Like they probably know just as much about your issues as they know about about them, because you're sitting there for 3, 4, 5 hours at a time and you got to talk about something. I'm sure you get some weird, like some sessions where you're like, this person said,
I think I know more about some people than I really want to know.
Yeah. They just let it out. It's like a therapy.
It is.
There's at least 2 clients that I'll just text them sometimes and I'll be like, hey, you guys busy today? Cause like, there's some tea. Like, and just get them in for the day. And they're like, yeah, no, we're here. $50. What do you got?
Yeah. It's a fun industry, I'm sure, just from the connections you make.
Yeah, it's really fantastic. Like just hearing like people's experiences, especially whenever they come in with tattoos that like are meant to be meaningful to them. Right. You know, then you get to hear that story.
There's something deep there for them.
And you can kind of like share that a little bit with them. It's just like that little tiny moment.
Yeah, you help them. You help them solidify that memory now, or whatever that was for them.
Well, like I know personally, I have clients that have hard times. So, you know, in those hard times, they take out their feelings in not so great ways. So, you know, we're at the point where they'll text me and be like, look, I'm at this point. I need to do something. I'm like, how much you got? Come on in. We'll take care of it.
Yeah.
You know,
and it helps.
If it's $20, we'll figure something out.
Right.
But it gets them out of that, and it gets them in a good mindset, and they leave happy instead of in that mood that they were. And that's an awesome feeling.
It's almost like a reset button for
Yeah,
them.
it's an awesome feeling.
Yeah.
I mean, that's another reason.
It's more than just putting ink in someone.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's like the best message from the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now you're in Camp Hill right now.
Yes.
I need to talk to you too, because I have something I want to do. But you can't tell, but I do have a few. But I have the same rule I think you had, where you're like, no, I don't want it to be visible at work.
Wait till your wife tells you to do it on your throat.
Well, her name's also Kristen, so don't let them talk to each other. Yeah.
I have no control over that.
We can't let the doppelgangers meet.
Yeah. The kind of just run down. You have your website.
We have a website. We have an app. I mean, there's
The app's just search Twisted Mad Hatter.
Twisted Mad Hatter.
Okay.
You know,
And
if you see the clown, you found us.
And then you have galleries like on your Instagram
Yes.
or things like that. People can
Instagram,
check out.
Facebook,
Yeah.
everywhere.
I think that's like the best tattoo gallery place is Instagram. People just
I'm the first to admit I'm horrible at it. I need to upload more of my
I'm not.
work.
My Instagram is @BabsBarbas.
yeah, that was a good plug again. Yeah. So I mean, if you want to check out Bab's work, obviously that's updated. But it is. So you're found plenty of places. So if people,
Yeah, I mean, if you search Twisted Mad Hatter, you'll find me. You'll
Came up
find Babs
right away, yeah.
I mean, we're not hidden.
And then real quick before we wrap up, I wanted to know how you got started on doing the vending machine tattoo, because that.
I'm not even sure.
That was a little bit before my time, so you'd have to enlighten me on that one.
I'm not even sure.
Or if you just want to explain the process for us.
I
real
think
quick.
one of my apprentices talked to me one day about it. I can't. You know,
Is it popular though? Like people come in?
when we first started it, it was really popular. It's slowed down. I think people are out of that phase.
Yeah.
But now we also have a little claw machine that you can take your chance at it getting a tattoo.
Okay.
But you know, you put $5 in, and if you get a tattoo, that's all.
But that's not guaranteed. That's fine.
No, exactly.
The other one is a guarantee.
Yeah.
The other one is
You
a
will get a
guarantee.
tattoo.
Yeah.
So
You don't know what it is, but you know.
Yeah, so for $40, we have 2 different design styles. We have masculine and feminine, and then we have a $60 one, which is probably more like fine detail.
Okay.
That's all handpicked by him. So
Okay.
anything
Is it art like you wanted to do that's smaller?
Some of them, and some of them, I have no idea what's in there.
It's just
like,
we'll just load it up.
Honestly, with the feminine and masculine, I have absolutely no idea
that
what's
was
in
all
there.
me. I know exactly what's in
Yeah,
there.
and then most of the ones that are for me, I still don't have any clue what's in there.
Well, they've probably been in there for a while, and you're like,
Yeah,
what did I put in
and
there?
then
Well,
and
you
it's,
stocked them pretty heavily. So.
yeah, because I
There's
don't
a
want to
lot
keep
in there.
stocking them.
Yeah.
and then I have another. Instead of just picking the tattoo, for another 50 cents, it'll pick a random placement.
Oh,
So, you know, you can get a random tattoo and a random placement. And
it's a true roll of the dice.
I'll tell you what, you'll be surprised how many people actually love doing the random placement. Now it's nowhere on the hands or face. It's all, you know.
Right. You're not going to be like, oh, well, guess what? Now you have a forehead.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but,
congratulations.
The Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
No,
Like,
never.
so,
No, but I mean, that's a neat thing. Like, especially if someone who, I mean, I'm sure you get anyone that does it, but like, you've had a bunch of tattoos, you have them, and you're just like, I want to add something small. I don't really know what I want. I just go in, I can load it up. If you're not afraid at that point of getting just whatever, like, that's great.
I mean, there's nothing in there that's really bad. Like,
Right.
they're usually all pretty cool tattoos. I mean, some are basic, and you're like, man. Before we set it up with the masculine and feminine, it was just, hey, you get what you get.
One draw.
And then, you know, a guy would come in and he would get a rose and he'd be like, oh, man. And then a girl would come in and get a dagger with a snake, and she's like,
Yeah.
So that's why we made it feminine, masculine, you know.
Okay.
And if you want, you know, doesn't matter who it is, you have your choice.
That's awesome, though. Cool. Well, did you have anything else you wanted to say about the shop at all, or anything new coming up?
I mean, we're looking into another location currently, just to change things up.
Yeah.
This is probably it'll probably be the fourth move for us, but we're always we're looking to do better for our clients.
Right.
Find better placement. That's all.
Okay. And you got open time available. So
yes, we have. We can usually make times work for people. And
what's your busy seasons where people are just coming in like crazy?
Tax return usually
like April, May.
Yeah.
April, May, up into June. We're usually pretty well booked up, but we have
time.
We have some openings.
Okay.
We have times where we might have something planned for that day where we're just trying to like do catch up or something like that. But we can accept walk-ins. We can accept appointments. We're actually going to be at Ink in the Rink coming up on June 7th.
Where's that?
It's a convention in what?
It's a hockey rink.
No. It's
said rink.
It's called Ink in the Rink. I'm honestly not sure why they called it that, but
so that's over in Sunbury.
Sunbury.
Gotcha.
Sunbury.
Okay.
So we're going to be over at that one June 7th through the 9th, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Cool. All right.
We have quite a few. I mean, we'll be at the Gettysburg Battlefield Expo,
Okay.
on
That's at
Bike
the
Week.
Center there.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. For Bike Week, and then the horror convention in Camp Hill in October.
Yep.
Sweet. Well, there's plenty of places to find you.
Yep.
Well, thank you for coming on and talking about
Well, thank you for having us.
more than just tattoos, like the art behind it. That's fascinating. So I learned a little bit more today.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.